Hey, Kyle, thanks for joining us. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, Brian. And it's a pleasure to be joining the podcast with you. Kyle Brubaker, been in sales for 7 years now, believe it or not. Pretty interesting path to where I got now. I don't think it's as linear as maybe most people's career paths are when it comes to sales, but I'm happy to dive into where it all began if you'd like, or we could start however you'd
Well,
like.
why don't you just why sales?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So I was actually on the pre-law route. My mother is a part. Have you heard that one before?
Well, I'm looking at your background and that's kind of eclectic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was on the pre-law route pretty much my entire life. My mother is a partner of a law firm, and I ended up working at a large law firm while I was studying for the LSAT downtown Chicago. And I remember the first time I went to get paid, I had to fill out in 6 minute increments what I did all week. And then I got to see what we billed the client for said activity per the week. And then I very quickly saw what I got paid again for said activity for the week. And it started to click that, you know what, this isn't really adding up for me. One, completely compiling my life into 6 minute increments and being told this is the exact amount you're going to get paid. No matter what you do, you're getting
Yeah.
paid this every minute of your day. And my roommate at the time was in sales, in medical device sales. So we were downtown, all excited to live in our first apartment. He got his first paycheck. I got my first paycheck. Very different numbers on it. So that's when the wheels started to turn that, wait a minute, you did what all week and you made what? You got my attention. I'm interested. Let's talk about it.
So you were money motivated.
I would say so for sure, but a little bit beyond that. I mean, anyone who's in sales and says that they aren't money motivated, I'd question that. But
The wrong
definitely
job.
beyond that, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Um, More so just about getting paid for what you actually bring into the company was very motivating to me. So when I'm sitting around at lunch and I'm making the exact same thing as everyone else at the table for those 6 minute increments, it started to not click that, wait a minute, if I'm working way harder or I'm coming in early, leaving late, literally do not see any of the benefit of that. That doesn't quite make sense to me.
Yeah.
In sales, talking to my buddy, you get paid for what you bring in. So it's a very compelling reason to work hard, to try and excel, to do things outside of work that others may not be doing and actually get rewarded for it.
Yeah. And so you made the switch but it's a lot unlike law in that you could in law you get right, you get rewarded on time. So it's kind of a disincentive in a lot of ways for your clients,
Right.
as opposed to contingency or something like that. Uh, how long did it take to you feel comfortable in sales?
It was pretty quick. It's actually interesting. I'd argue that my first real sales job was actually in high school. I worked at Best Buy. So talk about having to get comfortable quick. And I also make the joke that the best sales training I've ever had was working at Best Buy. And what was that?
Yeah.
What was that training? It was, here's a blue polo, here's a mic, go hit the computer aisle. Good luck.
Yeah.
And I mean, talk about having to get comfortable quickly. But I honestly believe that that experience is kind of what started to get the ball to roll on being comfortable talking to people, being comfortable being uncomfortable, and kind of learning on the fly and really making a connection with people, solving whatever problem they have. Best Buy is a little bit less complex than enterprise software sale. They're coming in for a specific reason, and you're
Yeah.
just there to make them feel comfortable and get them what they need. But I truly believe that that's where I kind of got comfortable speaking to people and was kind of the foundation for some of those sales skills you hear about everyone having, talking in front of people, making that personal connection quickly, understanding their needs. Sales is sales.
But enterprise is different. You get lots of different people, lots of different
Yeah.
issues. The natural thing is for it to not happen instead of happen.
Yep.
How,
Yeah.
how'd
No
you learn
one's
that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that that was quite the jump getting into the complex enterprise sale where they're not coming knocking on your door asking for the solution.
Right.
Oftentimes they don't even know the solution exists. That's your job, is to, take the pain that they're having and bring them to the path to make them realize, oh my God, there's a solution that will make my life way easier. I didn't even know this was out there. So definitely a lot more complex, and all the different moving pieces you have. You're now not just selling to one person. Oftentimes you have multiple heads of different departments. And one of the biggest things, one of the biggest hurdles I had grasping was the very different priority that each one of those departments may have. And if you don't put those puzzle pieces together, the whole thing may crumble. If you're on that linear, we're going to save you X amount of dollars every year, and you're just hammering home that point, you may have a chief marketing officer who has a use it or lose it budget,
Right.
and you're now making her less interested because he or she's like, wait a minute, I actually don't care about that at all. I'm completely disengaged. I want to keep my full budget. That doesn't help me.
And what was the toughest product you had to sell?
The toughest product I had to sell, I actually was fortunate to start the sales team at a startup software company, which was my first introduction to software sales. I would say that was the toughest because we were a startup. There was no marketing literature. There were no BDRs. There was no customer service. I had a sales title, but I also had every single one of those titles.
Yeah.
So that was tough to start the conversation from scratch. And you didn't have that, logo behind you where you're a company people understand. We understand what you do. Maybe it'll work for us, maybe it won't, but hey, I'm willing to take the call because I see 10 of our competitors using you guys. We didn't have that luxury, but I will say that was great experience for being able to and having to drive the value from the first couple minutes in the conversation. You didn't have the luxury of having that brand name behind you.
Yeah. And what differentiates you as a rep?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things is knowing my why.
Yeah.
Why am I in sales, which goes back to the quality of life I want to live. Understanding driving value is first and foremost. You don't have that luxury of being behind a big brand name that people are aware of. I think that's helped me tremendously because I don't lean on marketing or lean on a BDR to bring things to me. I've kind of been that if you don't go out and get it, it's not coming to you mentality. So moving into the bigger companies, which I now have, that's helped tremendously. I'm not sitting around and waiting. And I honestly think one of the biggest things is listening. Everyone, whenever they talk about sales, like really good at talking, presenting in front of people, feel comfortable, I make a relationship. You'd be surprised oftentimes how much more you learn and how much quicker you could get through a deal cycle if you don't talk. Take a step back and don't say a word, and you'll be amazed at how much people start giving you the information and which players need to be involved and get through those hurdles that you skim right past because you don't give the customer or the client a minute to talk.
Oh. And what are you listening for?
What are their actual issues? I mean, I think that's the easiest thing to listen for. But beyond that, what are their personal motivations for wanting to get a solution in place?
Yeah.
It's not always about the company. What gives them a win?
Right.
And then they are much more motivated to actually bring you through that process, bring you along, not only give you their time, but bring others in because you truly understand, how am I going to help you? Again, selling is person to person. It's not company to company. So if I'm talking to someone and I'm only nailing on how I'm going to help the company, but I'm not worried about their specific day to day or what actually motivates them, I'm completely missing the ball.
And how do you get there? I understand the listening part, but what type of questions do you use?
Yeah, I mean, there's all the sales trainings in the world are all about exploratory. Don't give a yes no question, etc. I've found honestly asking a super general, what's going on? What part of your day drives you the craziest? What's one thing that if you were able to change, you'd sleep better at night?
Yeah.
And it might not be about work at all. It might be, man, I wish my kids were back in school and I'm not dealing with dogs barking behind me while I'm at work. But who knows where that goes? It's amazing the doors it opens up.
Well, that's it, getting them to talk.
Yeah.
because sooner or later you're going to get to something that's relative, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, you think so. Otherwise, pretty quick to disqualify that lead.
And which persona have you had the most success with?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm in a unique situation now where I'm selling to a bunch of different departments, so you're always kind of juggling the different personas. But oftentimes it's that challenger who gets on the phone and they seem quote unquote difficult to work with, that don't waste my time, tell me what I need to know and let's move on to the next stage.
Yeah.
Those are the people where if you crack that, your sales cycle is much smaller and you get to the point of the conversation much quicker. So I actually respect that persona a ton. And I personally enjoy working with it. Going back to what differentiates me real quick, because this brings up another idea, is being quick to disqualify leads. I've seen throughout my career, people, it's tough to close lost that opportunity and they hang on to it. They spend so much time working on something that's just not there. So if you don't get that vibe early on, or that understanding early on that this isn't a fit right now, it just
Yeah.
opens up so many doors to go after things that are a fit. And I will say that goes upstream to the manager, VP level. Keep it in your pipeline. I think we got a chance. And it's like, were you on the same call I was just on? Because this is not moving anywhere, but I'll keep it in.
Well, that's it, because it stays in there. You got to answer to it. You got to maintain it, and then you probably have to take action on it, which is all time.
Yeah. Yep.
And how do you have that judgment? What fits into that category? Is it just that they have a solution already? They don't care. It's not a priority.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's even more difficult now, where it's so easy to get access to people, in that, there's a software that could blast 100 people with emails. People are going to ask, oh, what's it cost? Sure, tell me more. Send me that one pager. And, the marketing department puts a lead score on it. Oh, they're interested. As soon as you have that, as soon as you have that first call, I think that's some of like the natural ability of skills, or natural skill that you need to have, is to weed out those people who are just sitting there to learn the cost. I'll ask what the cost is of anything, just because I'm
Right,
interested to hear what it costs. That doesn't mean I'm interested in it or truly
right.
want to go down a sales path with you. So that's one of those things where it's hard to put a finger on what separates people who could get that vibe early on versus who don't. And you get off the exact same demo and they're emailing you like, this is for sure moving to stage 3. Like, whoa, did my internet go out? Because I did not pick that up at all. I don't think
Stage
they're interested
three.
whatsoever.
Well, that's it. There's a big difference between curiosity and interest.
Exactly. Yep.
Right? You see a Ferrari
For
go
sure.
by, the first thing that pops in
What's
your
it
mind is,
cost?
what's it cost?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're in market.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just a natural question. You see a nice house, a
That's
nice condo. What's it cost?
what's a yeah, for sure.
And people take that as a buying signal. It's like, no, no, no.
No, yeah, just
It's
interested. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a reaction. It's not an interest. And then they say, "Oh, how do I
Right.
handle the cost objection?" And it's like, you don't.
You don't, because there's nothing after that.
There's nothing there.
Right.
And what what's the thing that challenges you the most in sales?
Yeah, for sure. Great question. Honestly, it's one of the simpler things, and I'm going to use the word again in my answer, is simplifying things. So there's so much out there now, so many awesome technologies. Everyone's using the same buzzwords, big data, omni channel, customer experience. So, and everyone has all these great products. So when you actually get a prospect on the phone, you're so quick, especially at a big company. Every word you hear, your product placing, like, oh, we do this, this, and this for that. We do this, this, and this for that. This product can do that. All of a sudden, I always use the example, I actually stole this from one of my old managers. A lot of people don't like going to the Cheesecake Factory because it's so overwhelming. You have so many choices that you have no idea what to order. And I feel like that it's easy to fall into that trap where you start throwing every product you could think of because you heard one little sentence that marketing told you is relevant to that product, that the prospect gets so confused and so overwhelmed that they don't act. Because like you said earlier, in B2B enterprise sales, they don't have to act. They've been
Right.
getting by with whatever they've been doing
Right.
this whole
Acting's
time.
unnatural.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the more difficult things is simplifying it, calming down because you get excited. You're in sales, you want to talk, you got this new product that just got released. And it's easy to fall in that trap of wanting to hit them with it. We'll throw everything at the wall, see what sticks. Just take a step back, digest everything, come to them with a solution, an actual solution, not a million products that they could go with.
Yeah, because I think you have to bridge that. I always looked at it as salesperson's the bridge between the company and the client. And
Yep,
what most salespeople do is they just become an extension of the company and don't and expect the client to bridge to them,
right.
but they don't.
It's not how it works. Yeah, if
That's
they
not
want to
how it.
see all your products, they could go to your website, you know?
Right. And again, it's like education or entertainment, not selling.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I'm sure you've been exposed to a lot of great sales people in your career. What differentiates that top 1% in your mind?
That you wouldn't think of them as a salesperson.
Yeah.
And when they're talking to people, they're not talking like a salesperson.
Yeah.
Their tone of voice doesn't change. They don't start doing all these hand gestures like the used car salesman. They're just people talking to other people and presenting a solution that fits. It's very natural, very comfortable, not forced. I mean, any good salesperson, the sales process shouldn't feel like a process. It should feel like the natural, you were at point A. I've got a great idea to get you to a point B that you never even thought of that you're really going to like. There's no actual quote unquote selling in between as far as a prospect is concerned. It's just a natural progression.
And why do you think reps don't get that?
Man, if I had the answer to that, I'd be
Well,
doing
I think people get into a role because I'm sure
right.
lawyers act different than salespeople, right?
Yeah.
Lawyers are
You
always
know that
they're always worried about how this could go wrong for them,
right. Yeah. Minimize risk is always the right answer.
right? Because they guard their words very precisely and they're constantly thinking someone's going to hose them.
Absolutely. I think reps fall into it because we have these structured processes, you have these awesome softwares that track everything. So I know I love your content when you make jokes about micro, the manager, but it's hard for the managers not to get stuck in that because they're reporting
It's a trap.
upward.
Yeah.
And then it's hard for the rep not to get stuck in that because it's like, all right, if I know micro is going to call me on this forecast call, let's beef it up a little bit just so he's off my back.
Right. And it
That
turns
doesn't
into the
help him.
a game.
Totally. Play the game,
Play the
stay
game
under the radar.
so you can do your
So
job.
right. So as awesome as all these softwares are to help track and forecast and get into accounts, the flip side of that is that it allows you to play the game. And it's not just, all right, Kyle's going to go out. I know he has 3 meetings. Can't wait to hear about how those meetings went and have an actual dialogue. What went well? What didn't go well? What are we progressing? Where do you need help? It's, I saw you made 20 calls, but we only got X amount of revenue. Maybe next week make 50 calls. I don't know.
Yeah.
We get stuck in this because you have so many metrics and you have so much transparency that it almost gets in the way at times, which is a
It does
weird
get in the way.
dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it's the exact opposite of talking to people like people.
exactly. The exact opposite.
And how
You
do you,
email someone right when they open the email. Hey, just thought of you. Everyone
yeah.
knows you have email tracking software. You know, some of these things, you turn into a robot.
And how do you prevent that happening to you? Because I'm sure you
It's
see it
just being
around, right?
absolutely, it's just being conscious of it. I mean, especially now that most of the people are still at home, it's created a completely different dynamic. So to treat people like people, at least when you're in front of them, you shake their hand, how's everything going? You have that small talk banter before a meeting. Even if you're in a conference room, you could do that. You go up to each person, shake their hand. Now, Zoom meeting, 20 people are looking at you. If you try and talk to different people, you're all talking on top of each other and you go right into the robotic. Here's my intro. Here's the agenda we're going to walk through. Just gets very programmatic. And
Yeah.
it's weird. It's kind of like the most personal, impersonal meeting ever, because you don't get that chance to shake the person's hand, but you're in their living room. You see their kids run behind the computer screen. You meet
Right.
their dog. So it's very personal, but also very impersonal. So it's a weird dynamic, and it's tough to get over, especially with this remote sales.
And from the client standpoint, when somebody's acting like a salesperson, you get treated like a salesperson.
Totally. I'll let
And
you know if we have any questions. Death to all.
yeah, yeah, I'll get back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
And people will talk to you if they enjoy talking with you. And and
Absolutely.
and who enjoys being pressured or hearing a
Right.
commercial?
The marketing dialogue word for word that you're reading off your second monitor. No
Yeah.
one likes being sold to. Is
Right. When you hear a commercial on TV, what do? You go get a
fast
beer.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they turn the volume up, so you have to pay attention or you have no
Right.
choice.
Yep.
And I'm always suspicious about, I think reps fall into it because I think they hear other people doing it and they should do it. And
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, you see the rep of the month, the rep of the year, whatever it may be. A lot of times it's completely out of people's control. But if you see that same rep winning every quarter, every year, no matter what the market is, no matter what's going on, what product, went away, et cetera, that's who you want to talk to and mimic and learn. How are you doing that with every other variable going on for you to continue to succeed? I guarantee you that person is not selling at people. They're treating people like people, and
right.
that's why they're going to continue to win.
But the younger reps don't look at that person. They look at the person who acts like a salesperson, right?
That's a great point. I mean,
But
it's
you
interesting to
see
see.
reps come out of prison and people want to emulate them. And it's like they just came out of prison.
Yeah, what just happened here. Yeah,
And
people want instant gratification now. They don't want to
yeah,
put the time in. They want to skyrocket to that enterprise level,
well,
and they think they deserve it.
they get the social proof, either the car or the suit or the haircut or the bravado. And they
Right.
think that naturally that alpha, because when I'd go in to try and help fix a company, I go, connect me with the rep who shouldn't be doing well. And they go, what do you mean? I go, somebody who doesn't act like a rep, but it isn't just lucky, but they constant, like you said, consistent success
Yeah.
that you think it's almost despite themselves, not because of themselves.
Right. No, that's very interesting.
And you're doing the right thing because that person has figured it out.
Right.
And if you can just figure out what they're doing differently beyond just, being able to bond with the other person,
Right.
because I can't agree with you
Be-
more, because that partner in crime relationship that you
yep.
have.
Yeah.
And
I love that saying.
and has that been your strategy, is to try and find the person who's figured it out? Because you've been at some pretty successful companies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely have my sales mentors throughout. I have mentors completely outside of sales that they teach you lessons that everything's applicable to sales. I mean, going back to Best Buy being some of my best training, I'll say close second, maybe even before that. I was a waiter at the first ever TGI Fridays in Sydney, Australia. And man, does being a waiter get you up to speed on some of the tangible skills that you need to be
It
successful
does.
in sales.
Yeah.
So it's not always the obvious that really make people successful, but again, to find that person who is winning regardless and does it effortlessly, that's what you want to follow. And that can't be tracked in a metric. It's not, oh, he made
It's
50
not
more calls than the next.
activity, right?
It's not activity.
It's not activity.
Absolutely. It's the
And
opposite of that oftentimes.
it's quality, it's a performance, right? Because when
Right.
you're serving somebody, you have to kind of read them and make recommendations or guide them, set expectations, and then fix things that may not have been your fault. It's not your fault that they
Yeah,
undercooked the hamburger, right?
yep, but you're the one who's going to hear about it.
You're going to hear about it.
Yep,
And that connection that I've seen between great salespeople and coming out of hospitality has been really high,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
because it's so much like sales. You have to read people, you have to communicate, you have to understand the power of a smile, an apology, fixing things quickly,
Let
comping
go of
them
your
on
ego.
drinks, letting go
Yeah,
of your ego. Yeah.
it's huge for sales. I mean, man, it's easy to get frustrated at times when they're not understanding the product or they just don't get it. Like, everyone take a deep breath here. Getting frustrated isn't going to help anybody, but you'd be surprised when you're on the phone and you see another sales rep start to blatantly act like they're frustrated. Like, the saying the
That's not
customer's
helping.
always right, it's cliche, but you're not helping anyone here.
You're not helping anybody.
Yeah,
And in the same way, it's like, because you've seen the servers who act like servers, and they don't make eye contact, they read the
yep,
script, right? And the people are like, oh God. And they repeat
yeah,
things because they know they're not getting it.
yep.
And the great surfers, they come over, they give a big smile. How's your day going? You thirsty? You know,
Oh yeah.
what do you have
And
in
who
mind?
people I was just going to touch on that. I always love when I ask, what do you recommend? And the server passionately gives a straightforward answer. And when they say, you know what,
You
you
don't
don't
want
want the
this.
chicken parm, it's just not good here. And the same holds true for complex B2B enterprise sales. You're not just selling one product at most of these large companies. So to gain the trust in someone, if there's not a good fit, I have found that by letting someone know, you know what, we're not a fit here. We're going to keep rocking and rolling with the products you are using, but I'm going to be straight up with you. I don't think this is a fit. That person is going to come back to you the next time they have
Right.
any product that you potentially have, because they know you're going to be honest with them and take them through the process if it makes sense, but abandon it if it doesn't, because you're wasting both of your times and you're not getting a 1-year commitment on a deal doesn't help when you know it's going to attrit because it
Right.
doesn't make sense.
Right. Like they're not going to figure it out before they buy it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the key ingredient of trust is showing more interest in them than your own personal interest.
Exactly. Yep.
No,
Not, chasing
nothing
that
buys it
commission
better.
check for a, yep.
Cool. Hey, it's been a great conversation, Kyle. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Yeah. LinkedIn, Kyle Brubaker. Find me there. And I'd love to chat with anyone. Obviously, as you could tell, I'm passionate about sales. I love having conversations about sales and expanding my network. So truly appreciate your time. Going to continue to follow all of your content, Brian. Keep it up. I love the walks through the neighborhood. Makes my day. So really appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to continuing to follow your content.